Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you a highly requested video, how I make my prosthetics without molding them. This is the technique I use to make all of my FNAF prosthetics. So you're going to need a life cast of some variety, some clay, and assorted sculpting tools. If you don't have a life cast, you can use a styrofoam head, just make sure it's not one of the stylized ones. Or you could invest in an Ed head from Monster Makers, they're great, realistic, full head forms. Or if you want to learn how to make a proper life cast, I have an entire video series on it that I will link at the end of the video. The type of clay that I use is by the brand Chavant. It's an oil-based clay, so it will never dry out, so you can essentially reuse it, and reuse it, and reuse it. When I start blocking out any sculpt, I like to have multiple reference images, and I like to build up the form in little chunks. Once I have the basic form blocked out, I start smoothing it out and feathering out the edges. You always want to pay a lot of attention to your edges so they're thin and will easily blend into your skin. To really smooth out the sculpt, I take a sawtooth rake, which is literally just a tiny little saw blade bent and shoved into a tube, and I just run it all over the surface of the sculpt. This will remove a lot of lumps and bumps and really just refine your shape. But obviously the sawtooth rake leaves a texture that I do not want, so I use a guitar string rake that has very fine grooves to further smooth my sculpt. These little rakes are super easy to make, you just need a pack of guitar strings and some little metal tubes. You want the thicker guitar strings that are coiled, and you simply insert them into your pipe, form whatever shape you want, round, square, triangular, whatever, then use some pliers to clamp the pipe shut so the guitar string stays put. If you want a full tutorial on how to make these, let me know because I actually do need to make some more. Once I'm happy with the basic form, I add in all the details like the nostrils, the cleft in the lip, and the ridge around the nostrils, then I smooth it all out. And I feather out the edges a bit more. Then I go back over the entire thing with my guitar string rake. To really get Chavant nice and smooth, you can use 99% isopropyl alcohol to slightly dissolve the clay. Just use a stiff bristled brush and circular motions to buff away any texture left behind by the rake. Then I like to powder my sculpt to get rid of any tiny balls of clay that may be left on the surface. Now to actually make the prosthetic. This technique is just about stippling enough latex over top of your sculpt until you have something that can be peeled off the sculpt and be a prosthetic of sorts. So I like to start with the edges. You want these to be the thinnest so they'll easily blend into your skin. I'm testing out using those little craft paint sponges. I normally just use cosmetic wedges, but I saw Goldie Starling using these for this technique, and I thought the added handle would be pretty dang convenient. So for the edges, I applied about 3 layers of theatrical latex so they'd be nice and thin. Then I applied RD407, also known as mask latex, to the rest of the sculpt, avoiding the edges. I did, however, mix a bit of my clear theatrical latex into it because I was near the bottom of my container of RD407 and it was a bit too thick for my liking. If you'd like to know more about the types of latex, I will link my video all about latex in a card right around here. So I just keep stippling layers of latex, but you want to let them fully dry in between so when you go to peel it off, it's not secretly still gooey in the middle. To speed up the drying process, you can use a hair dryer. To further strengthen my prosthetics, I like to add some layers of tissue, but you don't have to do this. All in all, when using RD407, I like to do about 5 to 10 layers for a pretty solid little prosthetic. The more you do, the better it will hold its shape. Also, this technique isn't ideal for every sculpt. If you want your sculpt to be perfectly smooth, I wouldn't suggest it because the stippling of the latex leaves behind a slight texture. And if your sculpt has a lot of detail like pores or scales, I wouldn't suggest this method because with each layer of latex you add, you reduce the amount of detail. Obviously, if you're allergic to latex, this is not a technique that will work for you, so you're going to have to mold and cast your prosthetics. But I have quite a few videos on that process and they can all be found in my Foundations Friday playlist. Once I feel like I've stippled enough layers, I powder it to remove any tackiness and carefully peel it off my sculpt. And there you have it, a simple way to make prosthetics. Congratulations, you've made it to my end screen. Click that top link to see this prosthetic in action in my Capricorn tutorial. Or click that bottom link to check out my Foundations Friday playlist, which is all more technical SFX videos. And if you don't want to miss a single video from me in the future, click that little circle with my face in it to subscribe.